We're recording.
Perfect. Do we want to call this to order?
That's up to you.
Yep.
You're in charge
Okay,
of the
perfect.
meetings.
Yep. All right. I guess we will call this regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the DBGA held on August 20th to order. Would the secretary please do roll call?
We don't actually have a secretary. We have
We
a
don't have a
director of
secretary.
records.
Oh, I thought you were with records.
No, it's really nothing. Um, Nothing's been
Nothing
done in
formal.
a formal way like that. Since we're
Okay.
recording everything, I've got it up on screen. Who's here?
Okay, perfect. Do we have a list of last meeting's minutes?
No, we do not. We do have a recording of the last meeting posted up on the YouTube page.
Okay. So I guess we will dive into to new business. I guess would be next on the agenda for following the order. Does anybody have any new business they would like to propose? Or reports, I guess.
Let's just run down the docket of what we have to discuss already.
So we want to just skip ahead to unfinished business?
Sil, can you jack up your audio a little bit? Give him 1 second. He's really low on my side.
How's that?
Okay.
Much gooder. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. If we could just go down the list of what old business is on the docket so that we can propose new business if there's something that we missed.
Yeah, perfect. So the unfinished business that I have logged from the last meeting I was on with you guys, we obviously need to appoint a director of finance. We have the RAG LLC dissolution to discuss. We have an event sponsorship strategy, a revenue strategy. And then Kyrax had brought up something in an informal meeting that I think should be added. The Atari is still operating under Daggerhair's EIN, I believe.
Correct.
Which it's perfect that Ericos is on here. Was there anything else we wanted to add to that list?
Then for new business, if we have the vote, which I think we do, after we deal with the director of finance issue, we should vote on the bylaw changes that the chapter council recently passed.
Okay. All right. And I guess we'll start at the top. Do we want to dive into the director of finance first? If so, I will open the floor.
Yeah, we can dive right into that one. My personal feelings on the director of finance is that I still would like that to be an elected position, but we need to have somebody in there in the interim, so it does fall to the executive director's post to put somebody in place in the meantime. But I would like the public involved with it as much as possible. I've during my term, I aim for transparency with everything and setting policy and procedure for moving forward. I don't like the idea of this organization moving forward by appointing positions. Now, that's entirely up to you, Alicris, because you are the executive director now, but that's my personal opinion that we should get somebody in the position so that we can continue to move forward with what we're doing, but then try and get an elected position in there again.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a terrible idea to me. I know we do have a couple interested parties. The RAG dissolution is dissuading most of them. There's a level of complexity that the ones I've talked to are not comfortable tackling, but they're happy to throw their name in the hat if we are able to handle that on our own.
Okay.
Or after we are done handling it. I spoke with Kyrax a couple weeks ago when we had a little impromptu meeting. He said he was happy to fill in until that was over, and then we could get somebody else appointed.
Gotcha. Now, I dealt really well with Kyrax. I didn't have any problems with him per se. The only problem that I have with Kyrax in particular was that his real life tended to get in the way for
Supersede.
a couple months then. And I totally understand. Real life is a bitch. He was in the middle of, selling a house, buying a house, moving, changing, profession and everything else like that. So that was a lot of things on his plate. But we as an organization need a couple things done months ago.
Yeah.
We, from a financial point of view, it's my understanding that we still do not have the correct online acquisition of funds methods in place. Simple solution is we don't have a PayPal account for the DGBA. We should have had that forever ago. That should have been number one. We don't have a swipe. We don't have any of these ways to bring in funds when we have several people out there in the general public that have stated, hey, I'll donate money to the DGBA if you guys have a way of taking it. We just don't have a way of taking it. So those need
Yeah.
to be done like yesterday.
Yeah, I agree. That was
uh,
something we had brought up before as well.
So whoever is in that position really needs to get that stuff done, in my opinion, before the end of September. I'm putting like a 30 days on that. We need to have at the very least some link that we can put up to the general public says, hey, you want to give the money to the organization, here's a way to do it.
What kind of experience does this body have with Patreon? Is that something that anyone here has used in the past and would be comfortable setting up? Because that's easy to disseminate out to the group. I don't know how long it would take to get something set up on the website for donations, but
I'm actually
Patreon
very
should be
familiar with Patreon. The problem again lies in the fact that Patreon is much easier to use if you have a PayPal portal.
okay.
Because Patreon can take the funds and they can distribute it to the organization through PayPal. They can also do it through your banking information, yes, but I also am of the opinion that we need to look at our current banking and possibly change that to a more national friendly organization. PNC has been pretty good in a lot of different ways, but they have been very problematic with transfers of individuals on the account. I know Ericos has had to go in multiple times in person to tell somebody that, we have a person in a branch in Ohio that needs to be added, and the Ohio branch doesn't talk to the Virginia branch that Ericos has been in. And Kyrax was in, the the Sacramento office for the same thing. So they're kind of goofy. I would like to revisit what our banking institution is and find somebody that's a little less problematic with changing over, especially if we're changing over individuals on these accounts in a relatively short term.
As it stands right now, who would have to open this or have it, I guess, take point on it?
As it stands right now, it's still on Kyrax because he's the
Okay.
signatory on it. At the very least, we need to either transfer Kyrax off of it being the signatory and get somebody else in there, or basically, figure out who the hell's going to do it.
Okay.
Would this be a task that we would want to do after the transfer, or is it wise to do a transfer of banks during the shutdown, the dissolution of the RAG?
So the Ragnarok dissolution actually, it doesn't really matter. Basically, the reason being is the accounts for Ragnarok LLC are with PNC, but at the very, very end of everything, the Ragnarok dissolution is not going to be done prior to pretty much the end of the year. It's going to be pretty close to the end of December would be the soonest I could see that happening.
Okay.
Now, in my also experience, I need to get with Alacrist on this because there needs to be a transfer from me to him on dealing with a lot of these things. But the attorney that I contacted for this is kind of dragging their feet because it's not a big deal to them. It's not a large fee, so they're not, they're not going to make $100,000 off of us, so they really don't care. So that's another thing. But I don't think those are two separate things between how the DGBA does its banking and how Ragnarok LLC is getting finished up. At the very least, if we don't have any banking institutions set up, PNC can write the DGBA a cashier's check or a banknote to the organization, and then we would have a paper copy of the actual check to deposit however the hell we wanted to.
Okay.
Or we could just ask them to hold it until we can arrange for an electronic transfer somehow.
Okay, so that sounds like we have a couple steps there that we could kind of take independently. Getting a PayPal or Patreon set up, or both, sounds like could kind of happen before we get this bank account switched to a new bank.
Yeah, the other thing with PayPal in particular, you can have multiple banking institutions attached to a PayPal account. That's one of the other
Perfect.
joys of it, where you can have a wire transfer from a bank to a PayPal account and then distribute from the PayPal account to whichever banking institution you have linked to it. And I think you can have up to 20 banking institutions linked to a single PayPal.
So should I just connect with Kyrax and do this through one of our DBGA emails and get this set up right away?
Please.
Okay.
And just make it a point that Kyrex understands that we've got to figure out at the very least PayPal or Swipe. You know, one of the three big,
The big ones.
yeah,
Okay.
because they're the least problematic. Yes, they will have slightly higher fees, but everything on a business side is going to be less than, I think it's 3.6% right now.
And when Kyrex gets that set up, contact me and I can add the portals to the website.
Correct. And then I could do it through the Patreon. We could also get the Discord set up to have subscriptions and memberships. There are a lot of different ways that once we have that payment portal in place, we can receive funds, but without it, we can't.
Yeah, until it's set up, we're kind of just sitting here.
Correct.
And bank account wise, we're pretty much empty. I think somebody had put the bill on our website
it's
a little bit ago. It was below them.
still paid for the hosting on that. There is a Dagger Here PayPal account. Ericos, do you have that information handy?
Sorry, which information?
Do you have the login information handy?
Do
You do?
Hmm.
Oh, you are my new best friend then.
you're saying to the Dagger Here PayPal?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Would you be so kind as to email that to Alacrist?
Good thing.
That would go to
Here's the
executive
problem.
director at daggerhere.com.
There's a problem with that PayPal account.
Which would
It
be
was
what?
set up. It was set up by Paul Shelton, aka Pecco,
Uh-huh.
billion years ago, like prior to my becoming treasurer in 2018.
Okay.
I've called PayPal customer support and tried to get them to change this over. That has to come from him.
Hmm.
I tried to cancel the account and have it killed so I could open up a new one. They didn't like that very much either. So just so you're aware, if you try to open up an account with PayPal, you will encounter some problems since there's already a PayPal account linked to our EIN.
Okay, so it was tied to the
I-
EIN is what was causing the problem?
Sure.
Okay.
So I abandoned this entire quest because PayPal customer support was very difficult to work with, and we found other ways to do things.
Understood.
Question for you though, while we're talking about funding and so forth, the GoFundMe that was done in the past was very successful. Is that an option?
Yes, it is. And
Is-
again, the GoFundMe would also be tied to some form of a payment portal. What I've been trying to avoid in particular, Ericos, just since you brought that particular one up, that GoFundMe went specifically through an individual. And I am doing everything in my power to make sure that everything moving forward goes through the organization and not
Properly.
through individuals so that we have no questions asked.
And like you just said, that's the problem we have with the PayPal. I was trying to get that fixed, and the PayPal customer support was not particularly helpful.
Understood.
But hey, man, that was a long time ago. That was over 4 years ago.
It was, and now that we've actually got it set up that as a formal national organization, we may be able to force the issue a little bit easier. If it comes from something like if we sent PayPal a specific proclamation from the DGBA board of directors. It may make PayPal listen a little bit better than Mike Boone trying to get Paul Sheldon removed from the account type of thing. You understand what I mean?
You're right.
I'm
Yeah,
I'm
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 happy to
hoping
reach out.
that's something. I definitely appreciate the insight in that, and I wasn't sure. I thought that was the issue before, that it was tied to the EIN, and it was because one individual had set it up without multiple people being attached to it. But that's something we need to look out for moving forward. Is that we have redundant individuals. That way, if one person disappears from the face of Dagger
Right.
here, we're not
Needs to be
screwed.
position oriented.
Exactly. Which is why I've
Yeah.
wanted everything to go through the official emails, because the email is what transfers over to the individuals. And so we also need to make sure that happens sooner rather than later, that Alicris has proper access to the executive director, that I get access to the director of records, and that the finance gets transferred to whomever.
Okay.
Good news, I was able to log into the account just now. There's a grand total of $21 out there waiting for us.
In the PayPal
Nice.
account, nice. That's 1/3 of the web hosting.
A boon.
Yeah, I can get email accounts transferred over tonight. I'll reset passwords and send them out.
Excellent.
So treasurer at dagger.com. Who actually owns that?
That
Uh,
forwards to finance.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I left all the legacy accounts intact and just set them up to forward.
So we actually do have access to the emails that are coming through that. 2178. Woo, we're rich. No more life of squalor for Dagger here.
Yeah, if we decide we want to delete that PayPal and get a new one set up with proper credentials, so it's an easier handoff in the future, I'm happy to reach out as soon as I have email access.
That was
Yeah,
my
why don't
recommendation years ago, was just to kill the account and open up a new one, but I couldn't very well
If
kill
it's
the account.
if it's of any help, I have contact with Paul. What exactly is it that we need him to do?
what we would really need to have done on that is have it changed that the account is linked to finance@daggerhere.com. I believe that's
Oh,
the
so it's
director of
just
finance.
we
And
just need to have it email changed.
we need an email change, but then we're also going to need the person of record to become director of finance. The position needs to be what is tied to it, not an individual.
What does that mean action-wise with the account?
Basically, Pekka would need to log in as the original founder of it and probably switch it over that the point of contact is now finance@daggerhere.com, and that the point of contact is director of finance of the Daggerhere Battle Games Association Incorporated.
Oh, I guess while we're setting this up too, do we have an official address for the business?
That's another issue that needs to be addressed. So that needs to be added to pending business. Thank you for bringing that up, by the way.
Yeah, I was looking at the um
Is that just for like the
website.
registered agent obligations we have?
Basically.
Okay.
Yeah, like our web hosting currently still has Buck Stone listed as
Couple
the
things are
account holder.
tied to
Yeah.
my address.
Yeah, I think I'm probably supposed to use mine if that's accurate. I think we're reading through the bylaws. I have to have mine on there, and then my proxy as well.
The unfortunate thing is I think by Maryland law we need to have a Maryland address listed as well. Which is one of the things that I would like for legal review to take care of, is now that we are a national organization, what is the best course of action for a quote unquote business address?
kind of digressing back to the director of finance, do we have individuals that we would like to push forward, I guess, as potential interim candidates?
I personally don't have anybody in particular.
Okay.
I think if we made a public statement through the chapter council again, as well as through PR director, that we are looking for a permanent individual for that post, and that we would like to run elections for it again. That would be the best, and then of course also state that anybody that's interested in filling in an interim, because I don't remember who actually said they wanted to do it in the interim.
Okay.
That is, according to the bylaws, at your discretion.
Can we just use like a PO box for the business address?
Technically, I don't think we can use a PO box. I think we need to have a verified address. So, my understanding is like a UPS store actually has an actual address associated with it.
Because
That-
I have a, sorry to cut you off. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, please.
Because I have a customer of mine just literally started a trucking company to undermine one of the trucking companies that I was working with, and he literally just uses a PO box, and that's what we pay. Like, we send the money to his PO box.
Understood. No, I mean, PO boxes have been used for a lot of things. I think it's specifically a Maryland requirement that
Gotcha.
it not
Okay,
be a
that's
PO
possible.
box.
Yeah, that could be a thing. I don't know Maryland at all. I know Ohio.
Yeah, I'm currently dealing with Pennsylvania myself. I used to deal with Maryland law for small businesses, but I haven't in 20 years.
Gotcha.
And again, I want to sit and make sure we do all of this legally so that we're not held
Yeah,
liable
I don't blame you.
for
Yeah.
some silly mistake.
Because that would have been pretty easy, just like have a Maryland PO box, like, oh, there you go, and every once in a while, someone drive down there.
Yeah,
Check.
to be perfectly honest, I've thought about asking. My family still lives down there. Like I could have my brother who lives in Durwood, literally right down the street from Lake Frank, Lake Needwood, and all those other locations, be like, hey, can we use your address?
Yeah, there you
Or
go.
my mother-in-law lives right down there too. So, but
Just make like a special mailbox. When you drop it in, it just like stores a large amount of mail, so
yeah,
like, he doesn't have to deal with it.
exactly.
You had mentioned that there's a pretty long ETA on movement for the RAG LLC dissolution.
I'm
the
just
December
being
EPA.
I'm being very conservative with it based on the response time of the attorneys.
Okay.
I think we could push for it with, but I haven't been hounding the attorneys on this.
Okay. I was going through the bylaws on the RAG LLC, and not that it has any bearing on the dissolution necessarily, but nothing in there requires the event to be called Ragnarok. And if we didn't have any issues with the actual LLC, but we just didn't like the branded name Ragnarok, we could still use that LLC to run a single national event without it being called Ragnarok.
That is correct from my interpretation as well. The problem was the lack of operation from the actual LLC was what caused me to take the course of action I did.
Okay. I imagine there was more to it. Okay.
It basically if you would like me to expand upon it, I'd be glad to.
We could probably take that offline
That's
if we
fine.
wanted to chat about it. Okay.
The basic stance was we basically had one person was trying to do everything.
Yeah.
We
that's kind of
only
the
had
gist of
one
this.
person that was standing up for anything, and to their credit, it was Ericos. Ericos was pretty much the sole voice of trying to get anything done. I appreciate that, Ericos, with the contact information not being made public, that would be excellent. If you could send that to Alacrist directly.
Good thing. I posted it briefly. I just didn't want to leave it up there.
Okay, I'll go back through and see if I can blur that out. Not a big deal.
I guess along the same lines as of both major topics we've talked about here. Our only major strategy for revenue generation at this point is the event sponsorship idea that you had come up with, which sounds good, but we kind of need to get the ball rolling if we want to get money in the coffers. Probably a little short to try and hit the September events. But are there any events we want to try to target with this? We can start reaching out to the chapters that are running them.
To touch base on, sorry, who else was about to speak? Sounded like I was talking over somebody.
Take the floor.
Okay, we had actually discussed as the board of directors last year several other options for revenue generation, and to be bluntly honest, the event was the lowest on the totem pole because it took so many different things to fall in line before we could even consider sponsoring another event. The first thing that we had discussed was opening up a merch store, which would have zero out-of-pocket cost for us. We would just have to get some designs of things like Dagger Here bumper stickers, Dagger Here t-shirts, Dagger Here hats. They could all go through third-party organizations like Teespring or the like, and we could have our own online store through the Dagger Here website. Again, what was holding us up on that was payment portal.
And
Okay.
and that store does that storefront does actually exist as part of the website design they went through and made.
What was the name of that site?
Well, it was actually going to be through our daggerhere.com. It has its own web store portal that we can activate.
I guess I mean the third party entity that produces these things.
A simple example would be Teespring. I think it's actually called Spring now. Just Spring. It's the print on demand services. There are literally thousands of them. That
Awesome.
all we have to do is we start an account on their site. We upload our Dagger Here specific images, like Dagger Here Battle Games for a bumper sticker. We set the price. Say that we want the price of the bumper sticker to be $10, and they take $2 to do it, and they ship it out for us. And then we get, a certain amount of money in return for doing it.
Nice. That sounds like a great option. Okay.
We were looking for as many zero to low cost options as possible, because as Olaf found out with the acquisition of t-shirts for Ragnarok alone, that's a lot of money out up front that he had to put forward to that with no guarantee of return.
Yep.
And I
think
don't
we
want to
need
do that to
focus
any
on-
individual, much less the organization that we're sitting on, $5,000 worth of t-shirts that just aren't moving. And I don't want to have to sit there and ship them out. I know can't think of anybody else that would.
And you
Yeah.
got to think like your customers. I mean, are we getting new people into the game? I mean, because you're going to be limited by the people that play the game, so you can almost do the math on how many people know about Dagger Hair, and then you can cap your sales at that right at the rip.
Correct. And we were trying to figure out a couple ways to really spice up the appeal for this. And one of the ideas that was brought up was an annual competition for that year's design. So we could
Okay.
post a notice in, say, September and say, hey, we're opening up to all of the designs for 2024's Dagger Here logo. Submissions have to be put in no later than November 15th. And then we would be ready to start selling things based off of that come Christmas.
Okay.
and the community itself would have a hand in what the design looks like, and then every year have a new competition for it.
This
Um,
would inspire the
and
whole
that
process.
continues to generate interest in it, and it allows us to really showcase the community's abilities, because we've got a lot of great graphic designers out there that I personally know of that could sit there and crank out, logos that would fit on a bumper sticker, a window sticker, a t-shirt, a hat, hell, a pair of panties, whatever. Or a coffee mug, which is exactly what I would do. And then I'd be like, all right, I have 2024's coffee mug. I want to find the person that designed that and get them to sign the damn thing for me.
Okay.
And hopefully they would show up at whatever the national event is going to be, or if they show up to, um, Gates of Fire, or if they show up to any of the events that I go to, be like, hey, shit, you designed this. Can you sign it for me? And then they're like, oh, somebody wants my autograph.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great way to
You'd have
showcase
to-
artists.
You'd have to go to the event that you won your own design if everyone's running around with your t-shirt.
Yeah, especially if that's like, the first time somebody shows up with it and be like, there's the first sighting of my t-shirt. I want to sign them. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
So
it's great.
it was just the payment portal issue, which again, the timing on a lot of these things was what really hurt us. And this is why we had such a push for the change of the terms of the board of directors, was that every year we were getting recycled. So a lot of things towards the last 3 months of somebody's term just becomes a lame duck issue.
Yeah.
And we've solved that issue. We do need to get that all verified, that the future elections are going to be held in the staggered way, and that the terms are extended to their proper time frames, so that we don't have to worry about August 1st, everybody changed. But that was the primary way that we were looking at generating revenue. And then also with the payment portal, getting back to the GoFundMe type of things, the donations. And we had also discussed a potential quote unquote membership for Dagger. It would not be required. We do not want to have any form of a required membership fee, because Dagger has always been anybody can play. It's just those people that wanted to say that they're an official member. Maybe they would
What
get a keychain or a bumper sticker or something for paying a monthly subscription to Dagger here.
Okay. Aside from that token, would we consider any
There
any
would be
kind of
no
benefits?
other benefit really, other than the fact that they have bragging rights and that they get a little trinket. It doesn't give them anything above and beyond anybody else that plays the game.
Does it have to be limited to that though? I mean, maybe like if you pay a monthly fee, maybe you're covering your entry fee to the yearly event.
We don't
Um,
have a yearly event at this
since
point?
we don't actually have a
Oh,
Dagger Hero official, and
yeah,
we've
fair
never
enough, fair
had
enough.
a Dagger Hero official event. We had Ragnarok LLC events that were
Okay.
considered the national thing.
So
Again,
I'm not-
I don't want to make it sound like there was anything negative about how all that stuff was set up, but it was set up for the reasons that there were at the time, in the way that they needed to be at the time, and that did not benefit the national organization that was going to come forth later. Now that we have the national organization and we're making all these things centralized and official, we kind of need to go back and rebrand all of this and do things the
Have
way that.
anybody?
Go ahead.
Can I jump in for a second, Tamar?
Please, Ericos.
Well,
So the
hold on,
reason the-
hold, Sirley.
Pretty much just I have anyone appreciate the grand ideas that we have, because a lot of them are amazing. We just have to make sure that we have our feet on the ground first, and we can go forward feasibly with them, with the amount of people and volunteers that we have. That was all.
Thank you, Ericos.
The whole purpose of the Ragnarok LLC was to carry forward from event to event seed money and the organizational structure for how Ragnarok would be run moving forward.
Understood. Well, like I said, I don't want to cast any aspersions or say anything negative about how things were done, but looking at it from a business standpoint now, it just doesn't fit with how things are moving forward. It definitely served its purpose, and it did a wonderful job at it, but as we found out later on in the life of the LLC, it became very restrictive for the LLC to even do anything. Um, because things just weren't, it wasn't kept tidy enough throughout the life of it. Um, Case in point, and one example would be we still don't know who exactly owns that one trailer. You know, we're walking around with what we think is a Ragnarok LLC asset, but it actually probably belongs to Will Scarlett, from what I understand.
Oh, okay, I'll follow up with him and see if we can get an answer on that.
Yeah, I spoke with Dev about it, and Dev was not the owner of record, and he does not recall it being titled to the Ragnarok LLC. He thinks that Scarlett is actually on the title for that, which is fine, but that makes it Scarlett's problem, not ours. You know, and if Matt can
He's
clear
back in
up,
Ohio right now.
yeah, I mean,
He's sure
if
gonna
he
go
can
pick it
clear
up.
up who actually owns that, great. We need to know. Because if it's his, then Cooper's may want him to do something with that property. But if it's ours, then it becomes an asset that needs to be dealt with for dissolution.
Yeah, I'll call him this evening and get that figured out.
Excellent.
If it ends up being ours, let me know because my parents live 45 minutes away, and have a truck. So if it needs to get moved, could potentially.
So the storage on that unit is actually that trailer's storage has been paid for through August of next year.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
We took care of that at Ragnarok. Sophia paid the bill, paid the previous balance, and made sure that all of that was taken care of. So it's again, it's not a pressing issue right at the moment, but um, who actually owns it is a pressing issue because if it's a Ragnarok owned piece of equipment, we need to do something with it. If it's owned by Scarlett, we just need to clear it out.
Yeah.
And now that Penzic is over, that shouldn't be a problem. So yeah, that was all I had about what our funding sources are. Again, hate to beat the dead horse, but as soon as we get that payment portal, a lot of options open up for us.
I agree. That's a good step one.
Yeah. Top
Also,
priority is getting that set up.
Yeah.
who is DNA Evox?
Hello.
He's my officer.
Oh, okay.
We met at last rag. We were
Oh,
talking
you
about-
were the
yeah,
guy that was up at Troll. Awesome.
Yeah.
Good to put a
He's my
face with a name.
squire.
Excellent. I also I play a lot of online games and I play Albion online. One of my guildies over there is a database administrator. And if we come up with I know Reacher's not here right now, but we were talking about totally different subject here. Squirrel brain. The online database for national players and stuff like that. Like if we came up with an orc system, he said he would be willing to take a look at it and give us an idea of what we would need to do from a professional standpoint on how to build it, design it, and implement it.
Oh,
That would
very good.
be useful. I know
Thanks,
myself
BoD.
and Avox both have some interested parties as far as developing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have someone looking for work, that exact kind of work.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to put that out that we have another potential resource. I know we had discussed at Ragnarok that you guys had some inroads onto that particular.
I actually
Yeah.
spoke with him already, and he's kind of excited to get started actually on something. So at any rate, as soon as I know what to tell him, I will let him know, and he will let me know what it's going to cost and all that fun stuff, and we can get pushing on that.
Okay. The only thing that I think may be, um, this is something, Alcris, that you're going to need to look into as the executive director. Is that something that the organization can do in and of itself, or is that something that requires the chapter council to bring it into existence?
Okay.
The fact is, if we can fit
There.
name
Okay.
company.
To-do list is growing. I like it. And then I know at RAG you had seemed like you had a good grasp of at least some of the aspects of this system that need to be in place. Is that something you wanted that person you just mentioned to go through again, or did you have a
No,
good
they are actually totally unfamiliar with it. So if you guys already have people that are looking into it and everything, we don't have to
Yeah.
tap that resource.
Yeah.
He was just somebody that I had spoken to, and given what he does for a living, that's
Okay.
the type of stuff that he does, but on a much larger scale for different organizations.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely not like an IT or an app guy, so like I just don't know what to tell them exactly that we need.
Gotcha.
I'll
If we could just
describe
get like a bulleted list of what like user interfaces we need and how we need it to play out, I'm sure we could find someone that could do it cheap.
Yeah, and that's actually something that Reacher would be a better one to touch on, because that's been
Okay.
something he's been pushing. Basically, what we were looking at was mirroring what AmpGuard does with the orc. Which,
It's probably going to end up being under my purview, or well, records. It's going to be records. It's going to have to manage the database, but with also PR, basically being IT for the website. Um, I'll probably have to be involved too.
yeah, it's
And
something that we're going to have to sit down and look at and figure out. I think the biggest hurdle was um, figuring out whether or not the BoD can do it, or whether or not the chapter council has to say do this. I do know that one particular aspect, if we do this from a professional standpoint, we pay somebody to do it, then the chapter council will have to at least sign off on the expense,
yeah. And
depending
then
on
as
what
far
that
as
actually is.
the system being used, I imagine we're going to get some pushback where there are individuals that don't want to be tracked or whatnot. I could see us using this system as a good tie-in for that paid membership option. If you're a paid member, you do one waiver with us per year or something, and it gets tracked and logged in the system. So you just show up to events and show your membership. So that could be
Honestly, from an organization standpoint, we should be maintaining that
anyway.
anyways. That we
Yeah.
should have at a bare minimum one waiver per year per individual participating. That is
This just gives
storage.
us a way to actually manage that without it being a ton of invisible labor.
Yeah, and it would also, in the long run, what I would like is that all the individual chapters be able to utilize said database, that they can see if somebody's already got a waiver on file with National.
Yeah.
That way
This
they don't
doesn't
actually
seem too
have to have
complicated.
them fill out a piece of paper and transfer it or fill it out on site. There's a lot of moving parts to that one that we'll have to actually sit down with an IT professional too and be like, is this possible? And is this possible that we can do it in a way that people's private information is safe and secure? Because I want to make sure that, everybody's private info stays
The
exactly
IRS can't even do that.
that. Very true.
Yeah.
I actually have confidence in. I was just looking at one of the websites that this guy's name is Peter Fumich, actually, that you just made, and he designs AI and stuff. I think he can do whatever you ask him to.
As long as the AI doesn't start, turning our players
Yeah,
into mindless terminators, we're
yeah.
fine.
I'll make sure that he
No
includes a note
Skynet.
there. Yeah, we'll
Hey
include a
man, if it
clause in
ups my
there for
combat
design.
capabilities.
So the funny thing is, locally we actually have the weather system here in Western Pennsylvania is called Skynet.
Oh,
And so
Terrifying.
they were showing off what they were doing in Bedford, PA, and then they were in Hanover, PA, and I was like, oh, Skynet got another one. They're starting in the small towns, guys. We got to be careful.
They're just calling themselves a weather thing for now until they
Yes,
own everything.
it's just a warning. It's just a radar. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
All right, what did you have next, Alecrest?
I think the bylaw changes are next on the docket.
And
We have a
those,
summary of those changes available anywhere.
Yeah, they are in the chapter council motions and votes.
Okay.
We should probably repost them for our own voting, and we'll do that in BoD public. So let me take a minute to get all of that set up, and then we can have our formal votes on the.
Thank you.
that should actually go through proposal votes. So,
Oh, oh right, because we have that.
yes, we have a proposal vote section for the board of directors. We'll put it up once every member of the board of directors has voted on it. Then we can do it now. As it stands right now, I believe if we have unanimous without director of finance, it still carries through.
I believe so. Yes. Actually, well, no. If someone else wants to take a look at that, so I don't get distracted.
Yeah, basically what we were doing before is 10/21/2022 bylaw change to strike 4.3, 4.3.1, and 4.3.2. Basically, we voted to either veto or not veto. And the last time we voted on any of that, the net result was everybody voted unanimously not to veto. So if you put it up as a vote, you are also going to have to, looks like, give me permission to vote in there again. Because I don't have permission in that channel.
That's weird.
What heading is this under?
It is
Proposal
under
votes?
Board of Directors proposal votes, directly above public meeting.
Huh.
Do you not
I
have?
do not see that, no.
All right, so Sil, I think when you changed over myself and Alecrest, we got mixed up on things.
Hold on. Just let me see what.
Do everything at once, so right now.
Yes.
Do it now.
Board of Directors has access to that channel, so I don't know why you would not be able to see it.
I can see it personally. I cannot send messages in that channel.
Oh,
And Alecrest cannot see it.
hold on, let me. Oh, Discord, I love you so much. Okay.
While he's doing that, Alecrest, though, basically what we were doing before is he'll post up what the actual one is, and this actually falls to you. The executive director has to bring those up. You were supposed to post it that they've made a bylaws change and whether or not we want to enact it.
Yeah, I mean, the first time it was Julius Frontinus that actually put the proposal up, but
Yeah, and then I did it after that. And
no, not in the proposal votes. Anyways, I don't think, unless we actually do want it to matter who makes the proposal formally in the for the voting procedure, I'll just do it.
as long as it's done, that's the big thing. They were slipping by. That was one of the other issues that happened with the Ragnarok LLC, is Ragnarok had made some changes to the bylaws, and it never got to the board of directors of Dagger here.
Have we? I thought I've been keeping on top of everything. If there's a bylaws vote that we have to make a vote on, I mean, I know
You've been on top of it for the stuff that was going through the chapter council, yes. You are not at fault for the lack of the bylaws from the Ragnarok LLC because it wasn't presented through the proper channels due to the timing.
Got it. Okay. didn't realize that was even a thing. Otherwise, I would have been paying attention to it.
There was nothing given to you for you to pay attention to.
Yeah, no, I got it. Okay.
The only reason I knew about it is because Kyrex had said something about them. I will be right back. All right. On a different note, Alacrus, something I would like to add to the agenda moving forward.
Yes, sir.
Now that I'm director of record, something that Frontness had put up before, we have multiple Google Drives or multiple
Yes.
Google Docs tracking things like active chapters. One of the things
Yes.
that we wanted to do was with that institution of the proper database, clarify those, get them off of individually owned Google Drives, and have that information be stored through Dagger here. And also
Okay.
keeping it that there's just one, not multiple ones.
Yeah, we had brought that up with Reacher as well. He has a Google Drive for the Arbiter information, specifically the Arbiter list, which all the chapter representatives would need access to.
Yep.
So we were thinking about doing a consolidated Google Drive that we could share access with people, but not allow them to edit them in the shared drive.
Honestly, we should be able to do all of this through the Dagger here website.
Okay.
We shouldn't have to be using a Google Drive. It's just convenient
Sure, yeah.
because everybody has access to it. But if we set it up as access to it through a database held on daggerhair.com, we maintain control over all the records.
Yeah.
Including showing access, which IPs are accessing what information.
Do we have a list, even like a dated list? I know we've lost a lot of chapters here over COVID. I was going to try to have a little initiative where I reach out to people and try to bring them back in. I know a couple
Yeah,
of the
we do have an
chapters.
updated list.
Okay.
I had been shared with me. It was again something Frontis had made.
Okay.
There's
Yeah.
a tab for active and then an active or defunct. Actually, there's
Okay.
one that's
Yeah.
active and then new contract, I think.
Could I
Right.
get the one that's active and defunct? So I want to see if we can peel off some of these chapters that tried to go to Belagarth and got a 2-year waiting limit to vote. We might be able to get them back.
We can, but I don't know if I would really recommend that move, just because it looks like we're trying to poach members again.
Yeah,
Well,
I'd also.
there are our players.
Right now they're not.
Yeah.
Right now, there are no ones.
I understand the point that you're trying to make, Alacrist. One of the things that we were discussing, I guess I should just say during my administration, is the optics of how a lot of this looks moving forward. One of the big points that we've been trying to push is that while we do regret the loss of a lot of our membership, we've been trying not to push or poach and allow people to make their own decisions to come back. What we were trying to do was show them that what we were doing was worthy of them coming back to us.
Are we still trying to change the exclusivity aspect of the chapterhood? Because I feel like that in itself would.
What do you mean by exclusivity of the chapterhood?
So I think currently to be a chapter, it says you can't be a chapter of another organization, right?
Yes.
And I think we had discussed potentially bringing that to a vote to have removed. I think the chapter council has to do that.
That was also something that was part of legal review.
Okay.
Unfortunately, there are going to be a lot of things that come right back to that. Unfortunately, a lot of the documents that were put forth in place did not necessarily come from a legal writing. Some things might have gone, generally before some form of counsel, but nothing was specific to Daggerhair's legal needs at the time. So, like, we don't know if the waiver has any standing. We don't know if the chapter contract really has any standing. So that was something that we had discussed with legal review. We wanted an actual attorney to look at it from a current legal standpoint. Does this suffice for our needs? But we just never got around to it because we didn't have the finances to pay a lawyer to look over our documents, much less have an attorney on retainer for said information.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, if that's something I could streamline, I know a few attorneys who would probably do that pro bono. That seems pretty simple. It's really just like reviewing a contract service agreement.
We do have a number of chapters that do have dual membership with 2 different games. The chapter that I currently reside in, Nova Antiqui, is dual membership with Hearthlight as under Carthage. And
oh yeah, I know those guys. They're awesome. I like them.
Yeah. I think dual membership, in my personal opinion, is fine. The thing that we do need to enforce, though, is that it should not be dual membership under the same chapter organization.
Fair. Yeah. They need to be
yeah,
distinctly different.
Yes.
And the representatives, the individuals representing them, probably should be different as well.
Not necessarily, but there needs to be a distinct separation between what organization is under Daggerhair and what organization is under what other game that they want dual membership with.
Yeah, one of the points of contention that it came down to is not only do we have contract requirements for being a chapter, but we have event requirements. Like a chapter is supposed to hold 12 quote-unquote events per year.
Yep. That are open to the general
per calendar
public.
month that are open to the general public. But what it also comes down to is, okay, so say you go over to Alacrist's house for weapons building for your chapter's stuff, and 5 people show up and you all work on building weapons. And you list that as an attendance for a Daggerhair event.
Yeah.
That's all fine and dandy, but are they also using that as attendance requirements for a Belagarth chapter? Because what it really comes down to, say somebody cuts their finger off at your house making weapons.
Yeah.
Was it a Bell event or was it a DAG event? Because the liability is going to become an issue.
If we get forums, I guess, set back up, we could mandate that they are posted for at least a certain amount of time before it's
Do have
it's
forums,
sanctioned.
and
Yeah.
they do function. It's just no one
Nobody
the
fucking
website?
uses them. Nobody uses
Oh.
forums anymore.
Hmm.
You are talking such, early 2000s technology.
It might be early 2000s technology, but it's impossible to get any information on groups' events, their practices. Like trying to be someone that doesn't already play the game and figure out what to do and where to go. It's infuriating.
I don't think it's enough of an issue to chase chapters to meet membership requirements. I think it's more of a it's better used if we know that a chapter is actually causing issues to go, hey, wait, are you guys actually following the rules here, or are you just calling yourself a Dagger chapter and doing all sorts of sketchy stuff? Because
Yeah.
getting the administrative overhead on people for just to make sure they're playing, like, come on, really?
We're not even tracking whether or not these people are
Well,
attending events right now.
Yeah, I don't think that that's like a good use of our time. But you bring up the cutting off your finger aspect. Like if we require them to post their events on the forum at least a month ahead of time, like that helps us on the liability side when someone does get hurt.
Well, a more
We're at
important
least
way
doing our
of
due
doing it would not
diligence.
even be posting that they're having an event, but posting that people actually attended it and having the records of attendance be distributed correctly.
I have a kind of a devil's advocate question here.
Go for it.
Like, let's use the NFL as an example. So how exactly responsible is the NFL for like a bunch of kids playing some pickup backyard football when they like break their leg?
They're not
Not at
responsible
all,
at
because
all.
they're not playing
So like,
NFL. They're playing
well,
football.
so just because, well, they're playing football, right? So like Dagger Hair is the name of a sport. So
No,
like,
foam fighting is the sport. Dagger hair is the organization.
so they're foam fighting. So like you can't just like say you're a part of the organization if you're not a part of the organization. So then how can a pick me up group of 5 guys and they accidentally cut themselves thinking they're playing Dagger Hair just automatically be a part of Dagger Hair by saying they're a part of the organization and then make us liable?
They may have a legitimate chapter according to our chapter.
So
expectation.
let me fold in how the NFL becomes liable for one of those kids getting hurt.
Okay,
So
yeah, yeah.
the NFL decides that the local flag football team at such and such university has been doing great things and getting all these kids introduced to football. So they bring them to a Cleveland Browns game and show off their stuff during halftime.
Okay.
And the kid gets hurt during halftime at an NFL event, even though they were showing off St. Aloysius Community College flag football team. Then the NFL is liable because it happened on their property during one of their events.
Okay, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
But if they did it at Mount Aloysius, who gives a shit? That's Mount Aloysius' problem.
Okay. So as long as it's in a public place and not like in your house, you can kind of like be like, well, I don't know what you were playing.
Well, the first point of liability is it goes down to, so such and such Dagger Hair chapter was hosting an event, and their event was a weapons build session and somebody gets hurt at it. The chapter's liable first before the national organization is. And by contract, they're supposed to be holding those things in a very specific way. They're also supposed to have some form of actual organization that formed the chapter.
Yeah, like to actually say that they're part of Dagger Hair, not just a bunch of guys that said like that saw someone doing it and then.
Well, we also recommend that they form their own specific nonprofit.
Would we need chapter council approval to make an
Sounds like
updated
super
chapter
rah-rah.
contract?
Yes.
If anyone watches anime.
And the way that that vote actually went was that it was going to go through legal review. It was brought up before chapter council. And it was stated that chapter council fully approved the idea of the DGBA having a legal review of all documentation and then present any changes to chapter council for ratification.
And then it kind of died on the vine there.
Well,
It's a
it just
cost.
it was cost.
Okay. I'm pretty savvy with contracts. I could take a look at it and then get it over to an attorney that I know. Did we have a template of what we would like to change it to, or are we still kind of in that?
No, because we wanted them to review what we currently have and what we're currently using and have an
Okay.
actual attorney suggest changes. Now, I'm also going to point out while I love the idea of pro bono work and everything else like that, there needs to be some form of documentation stating that said attorney is making actual legal advice. Again, for the liability aspect, that it doesn't come back and bite us in the ass that, oh, somebody's an attorney and they said that we should do this, and so we did it, but there's no actual paper trail that an attorney legally signed off on something. So there either needs to be a, hey, we're doing this work pro bono for the Dagger Battle Game Association Incorporated, or we need to pay for it. And there needs to
And
be
as
a
it stands
receipt.
right now, we couldn't point to any attorney that gave legal advice on the existing contracts.
Correct. So what we were hoping to do
Okay.
was open up the form of finances to allow us to take money.
Everything kind of
And chapter council actually approved that we can accept money for legal counsel.
Okay.
We don't have a payment portal to do it.
Okay. Did we get the bylaw changes posted? Or still working on that?
It should be up there.
They're posted. They're up. I just posted it.
No, I'm not going to have time to read through that during this meeting, but I will read through those and cast my vote soon.
Okay. I don't. Maybe I have to reload Discord or something, but I still don't see that.
Yeah, you'll
option
probably
on here.
have to reload.
Okay.
Still don't see it after that. Let me know, but there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to see and post in that channel.
Okay. The only other thing I had on my docket for unfinished business was the Atari still being tagged to Daggerhair's EIN on one of their bank accounts. I think
that's a true
IRS.
fact. If you would like a
Go ahead.
backstory on that. So the two accounts, the Atari account and the DBGA account, are both with PNC and they're linked accounts. The Atari account, oddly enough, they were unable to be unlinked, by the way. And the way that they're linked is by the Atari account. Once we are fully disassociated from that, you guys can do whatever you want in terms of like deleting accounts or restructuring how they're organized. That's 100% fine.
Okay. That probably makes sense. Kyrex had mentioned that it looked like the funds had been removed from that one, or most of them had been. So there's probably someone on your side getting it ready for us to close it.
So on our side, we're still using that account, and we are right now talking about setting up our own LLC and breaking off. I haven't done that yet, though. So the request I had to, you, the board of directors, is that we just be able to continue using that and daggerhair.org until we get everything set up.
Right, so daggerhair.org, I've talked to a couple people in Atari. I don't remember if I've ever mentioned this to you directly, Ericos, but what I would like to do is take over daggerhair.com, but give you guys Atari your own unique, or daggerhair.com has its own unique landing page specifically for Atari if you go to daggerhair.org. I don't know if I'm phrasing that right, but like basically if you go to daggerhair.org instead of going to the main daggerhair.com, being redirected to the main daggerhair.com, yeah, you instead go to a special page that has more Atari branding. It's still the daggerhair.com landing page more or less, but it'll have a little bit more Atari branding to it specifically.
And back in the olden days, we talked about having subdomains set up on dagger.com for all the chapters. That would be a great idea.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It'd be like aratari.daggerhair.com.
That's also the other side of that coin as well, is that looking into doing subdomains. That's way outside of my experience. Not that I won't dive into that stuff.
Wouldn't that make it
But-
easier for new players too?
Well, yeah, we had spoken that that would be one of the things that Dagger here provides to its chapters as a benefit of chapterhood, was that they would get their own subdomain. So you could have eritari.daggerhair.com and it'd be designed by Eritari, however they wanted. Or you would have Fourth Age Middle Earth, fame.daggerhair.com, and Fourth Age would be able to design their own site and post it through that. There would have to be some oversight to make sure that there is not anything inflammatory or,
Of course.
basically just make sure that somebody's not posting hate shit up there.
Well-
That one of these Michigan chapters, not to poke fun at Michigan, but that we don't get some random white supremacist group
Fireball?
Oh, I
starts
thought you were
their
gonna say,
own.
like, Ohio-Michigan rivalry. I thought you were gonna talk about.
No, I'm just we've had issues in the past where we've had white nationalists
Oh Jesus.
be branded as Dagger Hiram. So much that they went to Charlottesville and were showing off their shield wall techniques, and shit like that. We don't want that, but we want to provide as much service to our chapters legitimately that, because we as the board of directors and as the organization, we're required to provide them with, certain things by contract.
Well, by having a website for each chapter, you'd know that each chapter is like official and not just something that's a little like, who are these guys?
That would
Like, no
also
offense
help,
to them.
yes.
Well, so it gets into an administration issue. So I think it should be doable, but I don't know the back end well enough. But I, as the webmaster of daggerhere.com, do not want to be managing some 30 some odd plus chapters, subdomains. As much as I want to give those people, those chapters, that stuff, I just don't want to be the one getting
It's a lot
called
of
every
work.
time. Yeah, every time they want to update
Well,
who the chapter leadership is or whatever.
wouldn't you appoint one of the chapter's leaders to do that themselves? Like, and then you
Right.
just
Then you
let
have
them
to
do it?
approve all their changes and
What
things like
we
that.
had actually discussed, and it kind of just died in committee one night because there were so many things being discussed, was that part of the new database and everything else like that, we would set up a basic, kind of like a blank form that they could put their information into a predetermined format that would basically give them a landing page. They could put an image in there for what their chapters, sigil
MySpace
looked like or
style.
something like, yeah, MySpace style. And then they could put in all the things, and it would be something so simple that it wouldn't require any further administration on our part once they did that little form, and the form
Well,
would be the same for everybody.
so they basically do have that already. Not in an official like subdomain style, but like the chapter map, that's basically what the chapter map does. And I have, that is more manageable for me because it is just a straight up database, and they send me all their information, Facebook group, practice. I asked for their practice site location so I can put it on the map, so anyone looking
Ah.
actually can, yeah, if they have no idea where this chapter is practicing, I can at least, they can at least go, oh, it's in this park. This is where the pin is actually sitting on top of the park that they practice in.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that just fine, but when you get to like a whole web page, it gets a little bit more tricky.
Yeah, we should be able to
And I mean, I can probably
codify
set it
all
up.
of this.
Yeah, I could probably give them like an administrator access, and then I have super admin access, which would be totally fine for me. But it's just, structuring all the user rights for that admin so that they are only able to take care of their own little subdomain, and not
Screw anything
mess
up
with,
for everybody else.
mess with anyone else's. It's not a big task, but it is a minor headache in setting this up.
It was something that was not a priority because we had other fires to put out first.
Right. But it is something I want to do. I want to say, hey, if you have a if you want to set up, if Artari wants to set up their website as a Dagger subdomain, here you guys go. Here's the admin rights for it. Here's your subdomain. Here's all the rights to create new pages underneath that subdomain, and then just go hog wild with whatever you guys want to do. And if there is an issue, well, I'm the super admin. I can, I'll make the final calls on anything that's questionable.
It
So,
sounds like that would solve a lot of problems.
to try and get us back on track of what Ericos was actually asking, Sil, can you coordinate with Ericos to make sure that everything that they have on the .org doesn't get lost? And
That's they Artari owns that stuff. I don't have access to dagger.org at
okay,
all.
cool. And just to get back to transition between myself and Alcris, everything that Eritari's been doing to disassociate themselves from those accounts has been done in good faith on their part. They've been moving forward at the rate that they could. So it has not been a priority for us to get that severance taken care of. They've been
Okay.
moving forward to get their organization registered the way that they want. There's just some time constraints with the way that they do business within the work council to
Okay.
get things done.
That's understandable. I just know that was on
yeah,
Kyrax's docket, so I wanted to have an answer for him.
Yeah, we haven't been pushing for it because it hasn't been a super priority, but they have been moving forward to the best of their ability.
Perfect.
A minor note for the website, for the dagger.org website. If we do take that over, we will have to be paying for the registry domain.
For the .org?
For the .org, yep.
Yeah, I
It'll
don't
be an additional
I don't
cost.
know
It
that we
shouldn't be much.
necessarily have any interest in that, but that's up to Elichrist.
Why would we need to do that?
I don't think we do. I
If
think
we're, well, if we,
Yeah,
if
they
we're
should be able to
taking
do their
over-
own .org.
No. If we take over, if Dagger Here takes over the daggerhere.org domain, then we're going to have to be paying for the upkeep of the domain. Otherwise, I probably shouldn't say this on public record, but there is. Well, actually, I'll say it this way. There is a Dagger Here dot something that is not very good.
Yeah.
It is yeah, it's
That's
I hope people don't find that because it's.
it was a poached domain because we had some traffic.
Yeah, it's a poached
Well-
domain. It's Chinese owned, and that's all I'll say on that matter.
We'd be happy to pay the domain fees. I've been paying the domain. I've been taking care of the domain names for at least 2 decades.
I mean,
Yeah, they should be able to purchase their own daggerhair.org. And obviously, like, the only issue would be copyright stuff, but they're still a part of the organization, so they can use the name.
We're
no,
happy to
like
pay that domain name. Don't worry.
the if we take over daggerhere.org and make it part of the redirect to the daggerhere.com website, then Artari does not have access to daggerhere.org anymore. If they want a new website, they're on their own. That's totally fine. I have no problem.
So you're saying the
taking over.
redirect is what would cause it?
Yeah, because right now, if you go to daggerhere.org, it's Artari's website, owned by Artari.
And they can't,
I think for now that we should just leave that until they're ready to move forward on something else.
Yeah, it's super low
Yeah.
priority for me. It doesn't. I don't think it causes any issues with people. I don't think people are trying to go to daggerhere.org and going, "What is this?" I don't, but it is something that needs to be handled properly. If and when we get to that point. And respectfully, because again, I don't think it's right for Artari to be paying for a website domain that they are giving over to the DBGA. As much as I do appreciate the offer, not that I'm the one that's going to make that final decision, but personally, I don't think it's appropriate. Well, not appropriate, but anyways,
Necessary.
necessary. Yeah.
Was there any other business we wanted to discuss?
I got tacos sitting downstairs. I'd like to go eat them.
Okay. So yeah, it looks like we have a couple lines of business. The vast majority of them are kind of. We drew a Gantt chart out. We need to get this pay option set up. So I think Shirley, you had mentioned that you're still in contact with Paul, and if we could get him to log into that PayPal account and get it registered to the finance@daggerhair.com email, and the director of finance instead of an individual. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Chris,
Yeah,
I
I had
sent
been
you
talking
Paul's
with him
information.
during-
What was that?
I sent Paul's
I
information
had been
to you.
talking
I
with him
texted that to
during
you.
the. You go, Ericus.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to step on you.
No, I get it.
Texted
Um,
Paul's information to Alacrist.
Thank you. And then Cirle, go ahead. Sorry.
No worries. I'd been talking with him during the meeting via Messenger, and he says that it's likely tied to. Hold up. He said he would try to get the information about his old email. However, he thinks that it was tied to treasurer@daggerhere.com, and he believes that address is still tied to his university email account, which is, of course, now defunct since he's out of college. Do we still have the forwarding rights on that email address?
On
Yes.
Treasure, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Then I guess it might
correct.
just be as simple as transferring it to a different, or changing the transfer.
Okay. If he runs into a roadblock and they won't let him do it, I'll reach out, I guess, from the my email and see if we can either get that taken off of our account or changed over.
Okay, yeah, I'll have him contact you. Is what's the best method of contact for you?
I guess now that Sil sent over the executive director email, either that, Discord, or I guess I could give you my phone number if he wants to contact me directly.
May I make a suggestion?
Of course.
Make it through the executive director at daggerhair.com. Keep it official.
Sounds like a fantastic suggestion. Yep,
Sure.
let's do that.
I'll do that.
Also, Alacrist, I'm going to give you a password for the treasurer email so that you can at least have access to that while we're
Okay.
looking for another guy.
Do we want to set a date and a time for another board meeting just to follow up on this stuff? And then obviously we need to do our voting on the bylaw changes on Discord before then as well.
So, by way of precedents that we set in the past, that falls to you when you set up meetings.
Okay, that works.
I would
I'll,
say yes. I would like to set up another meeting, but it falls on your responsibilities to do so.
Okay, I'll get something in the BoD chat, and we'll get it on the books here in the next week and a half. I don't think we have anything to vote on in that meeting per se, if we are able to just vote on the bylaw changes on Discord. But it would be good to follow up and talk about these revenue options, I guess. If we could get
Correct.
some of those off the ground as soon as we get PayPal set up.
Alicris, what I would like to do with you personally is I would like you and I to set down a time to chat. I know we had tried to do it before, but everything sort of get in the way. I'd like you and
Yeah.
I within like the next week to
Okay.
touch base, and that way we can finish up any transfer of information or questions about how things were done before and get it all on board with
Do you
you
prefer
how
that
you want
on-
to do it.
Do you prefer that on Discord, or I'm happy to come out to Pittsburgh if you want to grab lunch and get all this knocked out?
I would rather do it on Discord personally, and
Okay.
that way if we need to take any notes or anything else like that, it's easy to do. And
Yeah. Okay.
I really don't have the next couple weeks for me are shit because the kids go back to school on Thursday.
Oh, understandable.
And I've got some family issues that I need to deal with. My father-in-law is probably going to pass away soon, so travel's not very
Sorry to
good for
hear
me right now. It's not your fault, but I do appreciate it. So yeah, if we could do a Discord meet, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely.
Can
For
we
that,
schedule
anytime
the
it works
meeting
for
up
you,
while
I can be flexible. Yeah. Go ahead.
while we're all here? Why don't we just schedule the next meeting?
Okay. Does Sunday seem to work for the majority of us?
Sundays are good for me.
Yeah, Sundays.
Yeah, that's good for me.
27th.
Yeah, let's 27th, same time, or do we want to go a little later?
Wait,
for
next
some of
week,
the-
the 27th or September?
Next
Yeah, I
week.
think it's September.
Oh, we want to push it back a whole
Oh
month.
wait,
So the thing that we need to deal with immediately is going to be the vote on the proposal, which will be done through Discord. And
Yeah.
then once we veto or not veto, we would make the announcement to chapter council. When is the next chapter council meeting? Does anybody know?
I don't know if they. I can't remember if they voted on it.
I think that's usually the first thing that gets done, but
It usually
Nothing
is,
to
but
do.
Oh, that's right. It's next week. It's on the 27th.
Okay, so
Oh, well.
what we've normally been doing, Alecrest, is we allow chapter council to have their meeting, and if anything comes up that we need to address, we would do another meeting probably a week after that. Otherwise, we
Okay.
really only do meetings as needed. Since we do have a lot of things on the plate, I would suggest that we set a meeting up for September. Probably towards
you-
the end of September, and then we can follow up on Discord for any of the issues that we need to do.
Okay.
Ericos is proposing 9/17, which would be third Sunday in September. Works for me.
Basically a month.
Yeah,
from today.
absolutely.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, so September 17th you want to do. I would suggest actually trying to push it about an hour later if possible. That
8
tends to
p.m.
work
EDT.
better. Yeah, that tends to work a little bit better for Reacher.
Okay. So September 17th at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Should be fine for me. My September's so messy, but
And that will be a public meeting, correct?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why not.
The only time we've ever really done private BOD meetings is if there was
Financial.
sensitive information or financial.
Okay. And then as far as you and I connecting, do you want to shoot for this coming Sunday?
Yeah, that anytime this week would be fine. Whatever's best for your schedule.
Okay, I'm pretty flexible right now.
I prefer evenings myself.
Perfect.
So just tell me when's good for you, and we'll go from there. You want to do
Okay.
Sunday?
Yeah, let's start it Sunday.
All right, cool.
Putting in my calendar right now.
Okay, I personally have nothing else other than the fact that I smell tacos, so I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
Yep. I will second that motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Favorite
Aye.
tacos?
Hi.
Aye.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. I'm going to stop the recording now.